Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flick Show. My name is Chris Wong. There's a couple DC Extended Universe updates. I'll get to the first one. First is Ava DuVernay talks a little bit about New Gods. Not very much. She was on the Seth Meyers show, and she just briefly mentioned it because Seth Meyers is asking her that he found out that she's working on directing a DC superhero film. The filmmaker replied, not just a superhero movie, New Gods. Jack Kirby's New Gods. It is sublime, so good. Mwah. You know, she does these things. And then Seth Meyers says, you know, he knows about DC, but there's characters in there that not a lot of people know about, and they're not well known. And Ava DuVernay teased the audience, saying that once they know, it's one of the most lush, the best one. So it sounds pretty excited and ecstatic and very energetic about doing the New Gods. So I'm glad there is that energy level for a director. I still haven't seen anything that she's done, so I cannot comment about her ability to make New Gods. I mean, I know Kevin Smith said Peter Jackson should have done New Gods. Yeah, I think Peter Jackson should do anything that is epic in nature. But Ava DuVernay has been tapped to do New Gods, so there must be something there that the producers and whatever, the execs have seen that said, you're right, you're good, you're right for the job. Let's see what you got and go for it. We're going to greenlight this thing. You are going to be directing New Gods. So with any case, that is the future of the DC Extended Universe. There's many different directors, and New Gods is a movie. It is a movie coming out. Yeah, I never thought I'd see the day. We still haven't seen it yet, but it is interesting that that is happening, especially the technology now. I can't even imagine what that would look like, and would that even connect with the Snyder verse in any sense of the word. But before we get into that, next is the Licensing Expo, and we have already seen Shazam, and we had the promotional art of it. There was a little bit on the left-hand side where we're kind of like, what is that golden thing? We can only assume Aquaman, because those are the three movies coming out. Wonder Woman 2, Aquaman, and Shazam are coming out, and so they're already being shot, and exception of Wonder Woman 2. I think Wonder Woman 2 is going to be shot pretty soon. But anyway, we always assumed it was Wonder Woman or Aquaman or something like that in that nature. And it turns out, yes, it was Aquaman standing right next to him. In our first promotional image, besides the fact that he's shirtless in a submarine, first promotional image of Aquaman in that type of source. So Licensing Expo to finally revealed it. Not a very good high resolution. Someone just had a camera shoot off to the side. It's very blurry, and apparently there was also a poster there of him standing with the quindent, is that, if you will, is it a quindent, trident, inquindent, and him in his body armor. So the body armor looks great, looks impressive. It pretty much matches what he has during the behind the scenes when he's with Mare on the beach. So that is great. There were rumors, and actually, I think it's true, that he actually will be getting more of a yellowy, the golden garb from the comics with the green gloves and things like that. So that could happen itself, kind of like this figure right here. So I'm expecting different types of costumes. The shirtless one, of course, with the tattoos, the armor for the battles and stuff like that, and then later on he'll shed it off. It kind of reminds me of Krypton in a sense, right? Where Jor-El and Zod, they throw on the armor, battlesuit armors, you know, and then and then they rip that off when it's some more hand-to-hand fighting. And so I think that's going to be the same deal to it. So that's kind of exciting to see. Maybe possibly Krypton, like from Man of Steel in nature, that kind of world, but underwater. And a little bit more of that, in fact, a whole entire movie that's centered around that. I know it takes place outside the water as well. What I could only assume is Mara trying to chase down Arthur or whatnot. But that's the interesting question here is Aquaman that's coming out. Like, what is it? Like I know there's rumors and saying that it's the sequel, and people at test screening says, oh, it's the sequel to Justice League, and so that is the Justice League that we got, and that totally makes sense because at the end of Justice League, he goes into the water, and then as Lois Lane's little monologue going, and all the heroes go off in their own directions and stuff like that, right? And so I know I talked a little bit about the Snyder Cut yesterday and how there's a best case and a worst case scenario. I'm still leaning towards that it's quite possible to have the best case scenario. And I've been talking with Kenny Anderson, and we were kind of going back and forth, but he brings up good points like of how it's more likely, wouldn't it be more likely to have a best case scenario in terms of Walter Hamada and Kevin Sugihara, especially when Kevin Sugihara kind of took away his team that created Justice League, got Whedon out, John Berg out, got demoted Jeff Johns and all this stuff, and then apologizing and saying that they made a mistake and they shouldn't have done the Disney way, and bringing Walter Hamada. Wouldn't that make sense that they're actually more along the lines of trying to get back to what it was before Justice League, like kind of in a little small way, reset it to maybe Wonder Woman type age, so it's like I'm wondering if that's the same that was going on. That way it's not like they don't want the Snyder Cut, they want the Snyder Cut, but the question now is, someone brought up a good point about the Snyder Cut. Which Snyder Cut is it, right? Because we know that Zack Snyder had did a 5-part story arc, and Jim Lee said he did not get fired. He stepped away, and so it's not like they're totally mad at him or anything like that. And looking at it now, they may have looked back and says, we did the wrong thing. We should bring him back. And if he does, but like I said yesterday, how does that work with continuity in terms of how Justice League was supposed to be part 1 and part 2, but then we got all these movies that are being made? And some people brought up a good point, is that this Snyder Cut that may or may not come out, and that is being hinted at, what if this cut is actually the first compromised cut? What I mean is that the first, very, 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 very first Justice League, before all that Batman v Superman and all the changing the guard and everything around, was going to be ending on a cliffhanger in some sorts. Hey, maybe it could have been like Infinity War type cliffhanger, and then there's Avengers 4 type of deal going on there, right? So Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2. Of course, there was some compromise. They wanted to change it up. I celebrate hope and optimism, but this is before Whedon, and so they had a cut ready-made before Whedon was brought in, and then that's it. He actually did shoot Superman ripping open a shirt. He did shoot some of those things that would probably look like it feels like it's the end of the movie. It's the happy ending. Steppenwolf's gone. Whatever happens, Darkseid, instead of him being a prominent character, maybe he's just a teaser, just like how we kind of envision the compromised. I want to call it the compromised Snyder Cut, not because the real vision was totally different. But if this is the compromised Snyder Cut, then that would actually play in very well with what we're going to get afterwards, where Aquaman, they're saying, is set up to be an actual sequel to the compromised Snyder Cut and not the first Justice League Part 1 cut, right? So if that's the case, then that is interesting and kind of cool to see that if that is the case, that means Warner Brothers would be more likely to release that compromised, I know I'm calling it compromised in a negative way, but I'm just saying that he had worked in a better, a little bit more away from what he really intended, but kind of worked in a happier tone to the ending, a more, I don't know, a positive, I don't want to say positive because I would love his movies, but, a lighter tone to the ending or something. So in encompassing, instead of doing 1 and 2 We just got one movie, and then it ties up nicely. But it was also where the producers, not the producers, well, Warner Brothers really wanted to go with that. That way, Aquaman is the sequel to that. Shazam comes after that. Wonder Woman 2 comes after that. Well, no, actually, Wonder Woman 2 comes before everything else. But, you know, how they can lead off from there. And then New Gods would perfectly, you know, start off with maybe Steppenwolf being brought back up or something, you know, in the sense of that case. And so that's how it's a possibility to see in a more positive light a best case scenario, so that all parties could be pretty much happy. You know, it's not the original Justice League Part 1 Snyder Cut, but it's the Snyder Cut that he did prior to stepping away before they told him to do more things to it. And I think that's the version that maybe most people have seen, and maybe people are seeing now. That's my wondering, if in any case, or are there two cuts? I don't know. Who knows, right? But I think seeing that way, I can possibly see Justice League tying into Aquaman, or Aquaman rather tying into Justice League, and then Warner Bros. Would be happy with that, instead of having it Justice League Part 1, something big happens, and then Justice League Part 2. So that's what I want to say about that, and actually that gives a little bit more hope into the fact that some type of Snyder Cut, in a way, they can call it. They're not going to call it alternative cut. They can actually call it a director's cut, because the storyline might be around the same lines, except minus all the reshoots that Whedon has done, minus even probably the Legion of Doom, that Legion of one shot of Lex Luthor was put in for Whedon put that in just to hint at Legion of Doom. So that's what I want to talk about. All right, guys. Anyway, what do you guys think of all this? Are you excited for Ava DuVernay's New Gods, or you want to see what that's all about? Are you excited for Aquaman? Aquaman is this year, is the only DC movie, unless we get some kind of Snyder Cut. And there are some people saying it's going to come out this year. Who knows? Time will tell. Time will tell. It's May. We really only got, oh my God, we only got 7 more months to go of this year. I mean, that is some very, very quick. And then and July, we'll see in 2 months. We'll see what anything happens at San Diego Comic-Con. Hopefully some good news for us DC fans who are also Snyder fans. And who are and for people who are fans of DC Extended Universe in general, because it's pretty much alive and well. It looks like there's still a lot of people are excited about it. There's great big plans in the background working for it, and I just cannot wait to see what is Walter Hamada's and Kevin Tsujihara's and Toby Emmerich's new direction in which they're going about here, with Jeff Johns only as an advisory role now, instead of trying to create his own universe here. You know, so that's what I see in that. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.